Cek, cek. Bapak Ibu, suara saya sudah terdengar?
Sudah, Kak.
Ya. Oke. Oke. Can we start right now, Gregg? Oke. Baik, bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to today's training session. First of all, let me introduce myself. My name is Anna. As a moderator who will assist you throughout today's teacher training. And this is our second meeting with our trainer, Gregg Sotiropoulos from Publication. How are you today, Gregg?
Very, very well. Thank you, Anna. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for asking. Okay, everyone, in today's teacher training, Gregg will present about developing team in the classroom. Okay, without further ado, I'd like to please welcome Gregg. Time is yours.
Thank you very much, Anna. Give me a moment just to set up the screens. Ladies and gentlemen, fellow educators, thank you so much for being with us here today. I would like you all to please find the chat box located in the dashboard and send me a message. First, if you can hear me clearly. Second, give me a moment though, because I'm having a difficulty with my computer. There we go. Okay. Chat box is open. Okay, if everyone can see the slide with the title of the presentation, if you can see me clearly and if you can hear me clearly. Those are the three important things when we have webinars. Always checking. Yes, yes, yes. You can hear me clearly. You can see me clearly. Excellent. So, what are we going to talk about today? Teamwork and the importance of teamwork in the classroom. And after everything that we have experienced throughout these years, why is it important to incorporate teamwork in our class? That's what we're going to talk about. Okay. Now, at any time, you can answer in the chat box. It's going to be open the entire time. This webinar is going to be extremely interactive with a lot of ideas regarding teamwork. Okay, so let's go. Before I jump into the core of this presentation, I want you all to put on your thinking caps and get ready in the chat box, because I want you to write one word that comes to mind when you think of teamwork. But wait a minute, wait a second. I want to show you some visual prompts. So look at these pictures that are going to show up on your screen. And I want you to write one word that comes to mind thinking about teamwork. Take a look at these pictures. One word that comes to mind. Let me put on my glasses because I cannot see. Bond, yes. Argument, argument. That was the first time I've seen that word. Interesting. Come on, guys, there's so many. Let me play it one more. Let me play it back one more time. Take a look at these pictures. Teamwork. What comes to mind? Cooperation, sharing, goals, being cooperative. Yes. Happiness. Very good. Collaboration. Good communication. Yes. Achievement. Excellent. Very good. What else comes to mind? I'll give you one more minute. Think about it. So right now, bond, yes. Helpful, yes. Achievement. So right now, what I'm doing is I'm giving you an idea of how to talk about this topic with your students, right? Ask your students about teamwork. Show them pictures about teamwork. Ask them to give you an idea of what it means to them. Responsibility, conversation, solid, helpful, communication, caring, concern, yes. So here's an activity right away that we can use with our students to have them try to, let's say, kickstart what is teamwork? Why is it important? Okay, guys, very good, excellent. Now, this webinar, this title, Effective Teamwork Begins and Ends with Communication, was an idea not just came to me, right? I didn't come up with this. Actually, Coach Mike has said this before. Now, who's Coach Mike? You might be asking. Those of you who know me live and have seen me live, I'm a very, very tall individual. So I used to play basketball, and Coach Mike was a role model for me when I was in my youth. He was one of the best college basketball coaches. And so he said that effective teamwork begins and ends, the A to the Z, with communication. Now, who's Coach Mike? This is Coach Mike. Yes. And how many of us in our classroom sometimes look like this or feel like this, right? Because Coach Mike, when he was on the court, he wasn't always a happy guy, okay? And as I've said this before, our role as a teacher is very multifaceted. There are many sides to being a teacher. I said this in my last presentation, if you remember. And I'll repeat it again, that we're not just a teacher. We're a mother, we're a father, we're a friend, we're a moderator, we're a coach in our class. And our players, our students, look up to us to guide them throughout the day, throughout the week, throughout the month, throughout the year. Now, Coach Mike is yelling because he's asking his players, can one player win a game? Is this possible for one player to win a game? What do you think, guys? Is it possible for one player on a 5-man team in basketball to win a game? Hardly. I mean, even the GOATs of basketball, the greatest of all time players, LeBron James, Michael Jordan, right? Larry Bird, Michael Johnson, Magic Johnson, right? They didn't win the game by themselves. So I'm asking you, dear teachers, when you're teaching a class, can one student make or break a class? Can one student win the game in class? Not necessarily, because your students need to realize that in the classroom, that's the basketball court. In the classroom, they need to work together. They will learn even more effectively together rather than alone. The higher performing students with the average students, with the lower performing students, all mixed in together, they will learn collectively better, more effectively. Not just the hard skill of English, the macro skills, the micro skills, but also other skill sets that we're going to talk about today. So when we have a good class, this is how we look, right? We're a happy camper. Easy cheesy. Everyone's getting it. Everyone is understanding. We are moving forward in our classrooms. But if we don't incorporate teamwork more in the future, we will look like this a little bit more. Believe me, kids need it. Kids need the socialization aspect of a classroom. Because as team, the acronym stands for Together Everyone Achieves More. And I believe this wholeheartedly, 100%. That the educational process is not about one student by themselves. It's about pairs of students, groups of students, the class of students as one unit. So, talking about everyone achieves more. Here's a little video that I'm going to show you. And this video I know that sometimes in webinars, we may have our children with us. If they're playing with the pens and the pencils to write on the board, on the slides, can we erase it so that they don't do it? Have them erase it. Thank you. Kids will be kids. It's okay. I understand. So here's a little video on excellent teamwork. And I show this to students and they flip out. Okay. Can you quickly look at this picture and tell me roughly how many people are on the team? How many students are in class? How many? Take a look at this picture quickly. I want the chat box to fly open. How many people are on the team? Check this. 20, 21. Okay, 20, 21. Do I have 19? Do I have 22? 20? Yes? Anyone else? Come on, come on. There's so many of you. 20, 20, 20, 21, 21, 20. Okay. Let's take a look and see what happens here. This is Formula One, where the car comes to the pit stop to change its tires. What? Are you kidding me? Are you serious? Hold on a minute. What? Did you see how fast that happened? So I show this to students and I ask them questions because asking questions is key when showing little video clips, right? And one question I ask is, how important is each person's role on the team? And the students would answer. And then I would ask them another question. So I'm giving you ideas now. Today, I'm going to give you a lot of ideas for class. I say to them, I asked them, I said, in our classroom, we don't have a Formula One car, But for us to work effectively as a team, as a unit, right? Is it important for everyone to be responsible, to have responsibility, to be accountable? And then students would look at me and they would look at each other and they would be like, yeah, that is important. Which is why later on in this webinar, we are going to talk about responsibility and being responsible, because that is a key aspect when it comes to teamwork. Okay, you guys are writing in the chat box, sorry. You have a bad connection. All right, look, I'm trying not to speak very fast in case it breaks up. Sometimes it helps. I've seen this with the webinars that I've conducted over the past 2.5, 3 years, is if your connection is shaky, log out and come back in again sometimes. Okay. All right. Let's continue. So I'm going to offer you today, there are many different skills that surround teamwork. All right. I'm just going to offer you a few to think about. Now, some of these skills that I'm going to talk about, you may have heard already under 21st century skills. And we've exhausted 21st century skills, but I've thought that there are some skills that overlap in teamwork. Also with soft skills. Soft skills come into play with teamwork. People skills, definitely. Things that we teach in class, things that we practice in class indirectly. Hard skills. English is the core of what we're talking about, right? So I'm going to give you ideas on how to incorporate teamwork through English in your class. Now, today, as I mentioned before, we're going to discuss some teamwork skills. And the first skill that we're going to talk about is what? Write it in the chat box. What is the first skill that we're going to talk about? It is the backbone to every interaction that we experience throughout our lives. And that is what? Come on, guys. Come on. There you go. It was in the title of the presentation, of course. It is communication. Communication that is practiced from the day we're born. Communication, what we do from the moment we wake up in the morning to the moment we close our eyes to go to sleep, with every single person we come in contact with, whether it be the grocery store, the bank, a retail store, the school, the hallway, our kids, our parents, people on the street. Interactions, day-to-day interactions. And this is the key macro skill that students are so nervous about, right? Speaking. And this is why we discussed this last time. So as a team, we must learn to communicate. Now, in order to communicate, right? How to communicate with different types of students. This is going to help in differentiated learning, right? We have not just the different levels of how well they know English, but it's also their behavioral skills, right? Their behavioral backgrounds. It's difficult in class sometimes to do this. When dealing with teams, what we're doing is we are breaking down, let's say, the walls, the barriers between the students, not necessarily segregating them, but putting them all as equal in a way, in one way. And then capitalizing on helping their strengths and weaknesses throughout the activity, which I'm going to show you. Okay, I'm going to give you a few activities to help you. So in communicating, listening, actively listening is important to perform their individual roles in class. Students don't listen to one another, do they? Many times they don't. Many times they either ignore one another in class, or they make fun of one another, or they just don't care what the other person is saying, right? Is it important for them to listen to one another? Absolutely. Because if one student makes a mistake in speaking and you correct them indirectly, if the student next to them who's not paying attention, not listening, makes the same mistake 2 minutes later, what does that say? Right? What does that say? It says that if you did listen, if you were paying attention, being part of the team, then you would have understood that the mistake you just made, your teammate made, your peer, your friend next to you just made it. We corrected it. He repeated it. He understood his mistake, but yet here you are making the same mistake. This is why it's so important. In order for them to work as a unified unit and function as this unit, they need to listen to one another. The word here, respectfully, that's key to listening, because students also need to have the opportunity to express ideas they have in class, their opinions, right? In a way that they know that if they do open their mouths, if they do raise their hand, if they do make that effort to communicate, those who are on the other side of the communicative approach will give them the respect in listening to them. Is that clear? It's very important, ladies and gentlemen, dear friends, teachers, that this is discussed in class. Okay, it doesn't take a lot of time, but it will help in the long run, right? It will help in the long run in having your students understand that in this classroom, in this environment, we are all together one unified unit. Now, unfortunately, I can't do this with you on a webinar, but I'm showing it to you because I want you to use it with your students. It's an amazing activity on communication and working as a team. Okay, so I'm going to explain it to you. Take down some notes, right? I know it's being recorded, but it's always good to write down notes about this activity. So you break up your students into groups of five students in every group, okay? The easiest way to do this, to separate them into groups, is when they come into class, you give them a piece of paper with a number, okay? You will have 5 number 1s, 5 number 2s, 5 number 3s, 5 number 4s. Now, depending on the number of students, right? If it doesn't balance out, make it 4, or have 5, groups of 5 and 1 group of 4. You'll figure it out, but depending on your class size. So you say, everyone with the number 1, please come and sit and make a circle here. Everyone with the number 2 over there, join up and sit over there. You show this picture and you say, each group of students, each group, you are on this sailboat. And all of a sudden, one of you smells fire, smells smoke. And you see that little by little, there's a fire on the back of the boat. You need to get off the boat, obviously. I want you to discuss what 5 things will you take with you as a team as you're all jumping off the boat to save yourselves. And the students have to sit and discuss 5 things and agree and disagree and collaborate on 5 things that they're going to take with them off this boat. Do you think they can do it? I think so. Will this be an interesting activity to share with your students? Absolutely. Will they be using critical thinking? You bet. Creativity? You bet. Will they be thinking outside of the box? Absolutely. Will you be challenging them in thinking a little bit further outside the realm of a textbook and of an activity? You bet. Will they be using vocabulary? Yes. Grammar? Yes. Speaking? Yes. Listening? Yes. And then when they're finished, you have the students, if you wish to choose one student, to stand up and say the list. And as they're saying the list, right, you have the other students circle on their list items that are the same. And when you're done listening to all the groups, you create a list of similar items that everybody thought of. Okay. All right. So that's communication. Silence is golden. What does this mean to you? Silence is golden. Don't we love it when it's just like, I don't hear anything. I don't hear any yelling. I don't hear any screaming. It's great. But when it comes to teamwork, silence isn't golden. When it comes to teamwork, as Mark Sanborn said, it's deadly. You can't be silent. When Coach Mike is playing with his basketball players, coaching his basketball players on the court, you can't be quiet, right? Scream, pick, ball, roll over, come on, let's go. They're screaming all the time. English classrooms are not meant to be silent. It means you better don't say anything unless it is meaningful or helpful. Meaningful and helpful. And many times students, when asking a question, we find that the question that they want to ask, that we say, put your hand down, not now. How many times have we said that, teachers? Put your hand down, not now. Not now, later. Not now, later. That question that student had the courage to raise his hand to ask, probably other students want to ask the same question. And so that teachable moment, that opportunity is lost, right? So understanding how to communicate with an audience, how we speak to the members of the group, to our team members, demonstrating our level of understanding and respect. The more we practice teamwork in class, the more we increase their confidence, their self-esteem, their intrinsic motivation. And students will feel more comfortable because it's different having to speak in front of 30 students, and it's different when they talk in front of 5 students in their team. The practice is different. At that point, your role becomes a facilitator. You go around and you moderate and you facilitate each group to see that everything is working smoothly. Is this easy? No. Is it possible? Yes. Is it worth the try? Yes. Will all the groups do it? Probably not. All right. But we need to start implementing this. Another activity that I want to share with you regarding communication is a writing activity. Yes, a writing activity with communication. Having students share thoughts, ideas, and key information using verbal and nonverbal communication. So what we do here is we play music and we ask students to start this activity individually. Okay, first individually. And we play something like this. Just tell me if you can hear it. Yes? Thumbs up? Can we hear this? Can you give me a thumbs up in the chat box if you can hear this? Okay, so we ask the students, what images come to mind? Write down words, phrases that come to mind listening to this song, right? And then when they're done with this, and you're playing this for about 2 to 3 minutes, what you do is you ask the students to work in pairs. That means they're going to be a team. And it is beautiful, isn't it? Yes, and the students will, because they're used to other types of, music that they're listening to. When they hear this, they're going to sit back and go, oh, this is different, right? You have the pairs of students share their ideas and their thoughts with one another. And you ask them to combine their words and their phrases in one list. Okay. So each student has the other student's ideas on their paper. All right, they're sharing now. Then we give them a little bit more guidance and we say, okay, I'm going to give you these 4 words. And I want you to work with your partner and create a story with your original thoughts that you have on paper and these 4 words too. So what are we doing, guys? There's 2 aspects of writing. There are the mechanics of writing and there's the process of writing. Students stress about the mechanics all the time. Spelling, punctuation, syntax, grammar, placement, etc. And they neglect the process, which is creativity, brainstorming, first draft, second draft, putting emotion and ideas on paper. This is what we're practicing at the beginning in the slide before. Now, with the second draft, we are telling them these words and phrases and ideas, we're going to put them into sentences, incorporating these 4 words with that. They're going to say, how long does the story have to be? How many words do you want? Doesn't matter. Just write, talk, create, explore, and write a story. After they're done writing their second draft, right? This is the second draft. They're going to finish with a third draft. As they're writing the second draft, you're playing the music again. So you go and They have the music in the background stimulating the multisensory approach to teaching, the auditory, the optical, and everything else, because they're also speaking, right? Now, the third draft, when they go home, right? The third draft, Peter Pan, some people say Peter Pan, some people say The Hobbit, right? The Hobbit. There's no right or wrong answer here, guys. There's no right or wrong answer. Now, the students go home and they create their third draft on their own, the final draft, and we ask them with that draft to please draw a picture. And they come into class the next day with their final draft and a picture and a title. Now, why did I say the title is last? Because if we think about it, many times students create a title first for their little writing piece, for their little story. And what happens when we think of a title first? It limits our creativity. It suffocates the inspiration to just go crazy with a story. Have them try to create a title after they're done with their story, right? Yes, the key is the title. And what happens is, and I've seen this with myself, you know, I have an idea for a webinar. I think of the abstract first, and then I come up with the title. Because if I come up with the title first, then I'm limiting myself in how to really develop an abstract. Think about it. Okay. When someone reads the key, she understands what the text is talking about. Yes. The next skill, active listening. Understanding and trusting each other. This is what happens. Students will trust one another. Okay. Focusing intently on the other person as they're sharing ideas, thoughts, and feelings. Look and see what will happen in your class when students start to really practice this. And, you know, with active listening, follow-up questions are so important because it goes deeper into what the person is thinking. But kids are afraid to question. Kids are afraid to, you know, debate, to explore, to show maybe that they don't understand, you know, and that's not necessarily the most, let's say, healthy way for them to go about in class. Right? Now, with active listening, because I've shared with you different ideas with communication, what can we do? What can we do to talk about active listening? We can do an amazing activity in pairs where students need to really fine-tune their listening skills. Now, how are we going to do this? It's called Draw Me a Picture. Students are going to work in pairs. In class, you're going to have one row of students looking at the board. You're going to have another, you're going to have the other student who he's working with or who she's working with sit behind them, but looking this way, away from the board. Okay. The student who is not looking at the board is given a sheet of paper, a blank sheet of paper, and a pencil. Okay. They cannot turn around to look at the board. All right. Now, it'll be a little bit easier if you have the students kind of sit shoulder to shoulder a little bit. So this student is looking this way, away from the board, right? And they're going to be listening to their partner who is looking at the board, because they're going to be describing what they see so that their partner, their teammate, can draw the picture. Okay. You are going to show a picture like this on the board. And this student, student A, has to begin to describe to their teammate what they see exactly, and they have to draw it. Okay. Is this clear? Let me tell you, dear teachers, when I do this with you, when I do this live, the amount of fun, very important word, by the way, F-U-N, to have in class, the students, the teachers in my workshops, the laughter, the questions that are being asked, right? Because the person who's drawing asks questions. What do you mean? Wait a minute. The tree, how many trees? 2 trees. Is it on the left or the right? Right. Your right or my right? Ah, yes. Is it on top of the truck? Next to the truck? Behind the truck? So we practice prepositions of place, phrasal verbs, instructions, description, you name it. Clear? Thumbs up? Yes? Will we be practicing this with our students, hopefully? Yes? Okay, good. Here's just a little funny video I'd like to show you about communication and instructions. Now, there's no voice for this video, but please look very carefully at what is being said. Okay, guys? Why is instruction so important? Oh my goodness. Ouch. Instructions. We may think that our students are understanding the instructions of what we're asking them to do. One little misunderstanding by a student, especially working as a team, everything could go wrong, right? As you saw here, everything was crystal clear. The instructions were fine. One little piece of information was you fall backwards. And therefore, the husband is going to get a massive beating by his wife in the evening. Anyway. Active listening and communication. Responsibility. Okay. Responsibility. We talked about this earlier on, didn't we? And I told you we're going to talk about it again. Students need to understand the work that they're responsible for. Learning English. Okay. Getting good grades? Not necessarily. Trying to get the best grade possible? Yes. You know, sometimes parents make the mistake and they feel that their child needs to try their best to get an A, to get 100. And that's fine in moderation. You see, a student needs to be challenged, but they need to be challenged just enough so that they can attain success. If we ask a student to try to achieve 100, but we know that it's difficult, way too difficult, try to achieve a 95. That'll be just enough, that will push them just enough so that they can not get overly stressed, but reach it. Now, what will surprise you is those students, the next time, will say to themselves, I'm going to go for a 97. I'm going to go for that 100. I'm going to work hard to better my best. And that's what we want. Okay. I tell my kids all the time, my son came home, he had an English test and he got a 96 out of 100. I said, that's incredible. That is absolutely amazing. He goes, but it's not 100. I said, I don't care. I've told you this. I never expect 100. I expect you to do your best. If doing your best is getting 100, excellent. If doing your best is getting a 90, excellent. If doing your best is not studying and playing and watching Netflix and playing Fortnite and then getting a 60, well then, fail again, but fail better. Improve. We have all failed sometimes in class. Even you have, teachers. You know how it feels, right? Parents forget that. They pressure their kids too much. And so this responsibility is a core in teamwork. So should we expect certain standards by our students? Absolutely. Students can work together towards a common goal, which they should every day, every week, every month, and for the year. Set goals for your students. Have them achieve goals. Have them have a purpose with everything that they have to do. And they will be successful in doing it. And once they feel that success, honest success, sincere success, they will want to do it again and again and better. So, this quote says it all. If you can kick the person in the pants responsible for most of your trouble, you wouldn't sit for a month. Because it's so easy to point the finger at other people saying it's their fault, where the responsibility falls on you and it's yours. Take responsibility. That's what we want to teach our kids when it comes to teamwork and in general. So, ideas, activities, suggestions. What can I give you for this particular skill of responsibility? We have to introduce this to our students, maybe for the first time. I don't know. And how do we do this? What does responsibility mean to you? What does it mean? Your students will write down a word, a phrase, a sentence. We don't want more than a sentence. What does responsibility mean? Cleaning my room, feeding my dog, doing my homework, cleaning the dishes, making my bed. I don't know. Sky's the limit. Now, you can make this a general question with answers that I just gave you, or you can give them a more directed, guided avenue on where to go with this and say, what does responsible mean to you in our classroom? Okay. In my country, okay. Yeah, I mean, look, when it comes to grades and responsibility, there needs to be a lot of empathy, which is another skill I'm going to show you in a moment. You see how everything is linked like a chain, okay, based on your comment just now. So when students answer this question, what we do is we put their answers, because we want to make it nice. We want to give them a little handout like this and have their answer on the handout. And then we put it on our wall somewhere in our classroom. I love to decorate the classroom with our students' work and their answers. Once you put that up, what does responsibility mean to us? Then you give them a follow-up activity. I am responsible for, and they finish this sentence. They sign it and they put that up on the wall too. Okay. And then what you do is, after a couple of weeks, you take down I am responsible for, and you have them do it again with a different answer. And this way they learn different things that they are responsible for. That responsibility is not just on one thing, but many things. Okay, as they mature, as they develop, as they grow in class. The next one is honesty. And as you see here, there are 5 pillars. Those of you who have heard me before in other webinars and live, when I was a school teacher in New York 26 years ago, I came up with my 5 pillars in my classroom. One of those pillars was honesty. To work as a class, we need honesty in class. Trust, these were my 5 pillars. Trust, honesty, openness, respect, and love for one another. Okay. Trust, honesty, openness, respect, and love. All right. Because we may disagree sometimes. Sometimes our students may not do their homework. Students sometimes may not do their part, right, in the team. They need to be honest as to the why and work on the how they're going to make that up. Okay. If you want to be trusted, be honest. If you want to be honest, be true. If you want to be true, be yourself. And so when it comes to honesty and trust, it's all about being yourself. And a question I like to ask students after I show them this quote is it hard to be you? I mean, is it really, really hard to be really you? You know? It's an interesting question to ask students, because I feel that students are not being authentic. They're not really being themselves. And it could be due to a large part of the internet. I don't know. So then the next skill, let me see my internet, something's going on. Give me a moment. My internet. No, wait, it's okay. All right. And so my next skill that I talk about is empathy. In teams, we need to be empathic, right? As teachers, we need to be empathic. Students will understand their motives and their feelings when you talk about empathy. Introduce this to them. With empathy, you're not listening to actually give a response to something. You're just listening to understand the person in front of you. Important for you guys too. Really dedicating some time to understand how others are thinking, and then how to connect with them in the right way. Very, very important. So how can we practice this in class? What can we do in class with empathy? Ups and downs, highs and lows. It's an activity that I do with students when I visit different countries around the world, and it's fabulous because it gives students the opportunity to share. Some students may not want to do it. You give them time. What you do is you have students because they're a team. Each student, this could be either in school or out of school. On a Thursday or a Friday, they share a really great experience they had and a really crappy experience they had, either in or outside of school, an up and a down, a high or a low. What do you think will happen when students start to share these experiences? What do you think could happen? When students start to share their experiences, a good experience or a bad, something that was great that happened and something that was just that happened. In class, when students start to listen to one another, they will realize that they in fact are going to increase their comfort zone in sharing their stories. And this by itself helps students become more empathic because they realize that other students are going through the same thing that they are, which means I can talk to them about it, right? I can talk to them about it. Today, the chat box is a little bit, it's a little bit quiet as opposed to last week. Last week, you guys were just like commenting, is everyone all right? Everybody okay? I know it's Friday. Oh, TGIF, right? Oh, but it's Friday. Oh, right? Everyone's tired on Fridays. The end of the week. Oh. The next skill is collaboration. Collaboration. The strength of the team is each member of the team. But the strength of each member is the team. I love this quote. I love when students analyze this quote and the meaning it has. Working with other teammates to share ideas, to improve work, and to help one another, to collaborate. Now, this is just something to laugh about. And I share this with students. It's about collaboration. A friend, an individual wants to get a job at a company, okay? And yes, the consequences of the choices, oh, wait till you see this video. And so let's see how collaboration works with some friends.
Mr. Goodman? What makes you think you're qualified for this job?
Oh! Ah! Stop punching me!
I'm punching
Please,
you.
sir, no! Don't throw me!
No, not that fish.
Don't touch me! Keep your hands off of me! Don't throw me out!
Next.
Here it is, huh? Get it?
So, come on. You didn't find that funny? Please. Come on, guys. Right? I mean, if this isn't collaboration, I don't know what is among friends, right? So I share this with students as a little bit of a laugh, to have them see what this is about. So I've offered you a couple of skills for teamwork. I've suggested some activities that we can do. Okay. And in closing, I want to tell you a story. Okay. A story that incorporates all the skills that we talked about today. There was once an educator who was traveling in Africa, exploring for many months. And he came across a tribe. And this tribe was called the Xhosa tribe. Xhosa. And in this tribe, there was also a teacher who knew English. And the kids were learning basic English. Now, this teacher, who had two huge backpacks, a double backpack, he loved candy, and he had a lot of candy bars and sweets with him. While he was talking to the teacher, he took out a candy bar to share with the teacher, and all of the students were like, "Oh, what's that?" So he says, "These are candy bars. This is candy." So he says, "I have an idea. I'm going to take my bag of candy and I'm going to have your teacher take it into the forest, into the jungle, right? Into the woods, and hide it. And whoever goes and finds it gets to eat all the candy." Oh, the kids went crazy. The instructions was clear. The bag will be hidden, and whoever, when we say ready, set, go, whoever goes and finds the bag of candy first gets to eat all the candy. Clear, Crystal. So he says, "I'm going to count to 3. Are you ready?" Everybody goes at 3. 1, 2, 3. And all the students formed a circle on the floor, and they started to talk to one another. The teacher said, "Oh man, I think they didn't understand what I said." He says, "Did you guys understand the instructions?" Yes, of course. We're just collaborating on something. And they were speaking in their native language. All of a sudden, they all get up, they join hands, and the child, the student that was closest to the woods, to the forest, to the jungle, started to go in, and everyone followed him holding hands. The teacher said, "This is odd. Why are they doing this?" 5 minutes goes by, 10 minutes goes by. Not one student has come back. And he said, "Oh no, something has happened." Just as he was about to go into the woods, into the jungle, into the forest, the first student who went in came out, holding the hand of the next student, holding the hand of the next student. And he looked at the first student and he didn't see a bag. And he said, okay, I guess they didn't find it. Until finally, the last student came out of the woods, the jungle, the forest, whatever word you wish to choose, based on how you interpret the story. All the students came out of the forest still holding hands. And the last student, in his free hand, was holding a bag of candy. They all came back and formed a circle. They opened up. They opened up the bag and they started to share the candy. The teacher said, why did you do this? And one of the students said, Ubuntu, Ubuntu. How can one of us be happy if all the others are sad? My dear friends, ladies and gentlemen, my fellow educators, in the Xhosa tribe, Ubuntu means I am because we are. And that is teamwork. That is education. That is what we do in our classrooms, in our schools, and in our countries. So, there are many benefits to teamwork. It gives them success outside the class. We prepare them for their careers because in every career path, they must, we work in teams. Our students will be able to demonstrate that they have these skills. So we are preparing them for their future. And let's face it, these students are our future global agents of change. And we have the responsibility to help them be the best that they can be for their future. So what are you waiting for? Remember, together, everyone achieves more. Thank you very much. And now I will stop sharing and we can have a little bit of a 10-minute Q&A. By the way, if you hear a noise behind me, it is something that I cannot stop because every time I do a webinar, my dog seems to sleep because she hears my voice, and then she starts snoring. So I apologize if you hear my dog snoring in the background.
Okay, thank you, Greg, for the presentation. Now we'll move to question and answer session. Maybe everyone that has question, please, you can open your camera and don't forget to mention your name before giving the question. Mr. Mupendra, please.
Oh yeah, thank you. Excuse me, I would like to ask a question, Mr. Gregg. It's a pleasure. Okay, the first question is, you have explained about the picture, using picture as a materials for studying. I would like to ask you, how about if I use flashcard? Is it okay?
In a flashcard though, in what aspect? To teach what?
To explain to building courage for students to speak, like making when we study tenses, and I want to talk about the present simple. So can I use a flashcard to use that? I mean, to use it for studying the simple present tense like that.
So let's explore this. We're going to be discussing the micro skill of grammar with present simple using a flashcard. what will the flashcard visually show the student? What will it show to practice?
Pictures. Yeah, picture. The picture.
Yes.
So is it effective to teach students with the flashcards?
For grammar?
Yeah, for the tenses. I mean, like they will enhance the thought that they will talk using the simple present tense using the flashcards.
I think that a 2D visual doesn't work as well as a 3D or a mini clip or a meme or something else that students are more connected with because of their because of their experience with the internet and with social media and with technology. So I would take it one step higher in presenting them something that is more catchy in teaching grammar. Now, vocab is different. I'm talking about grammar. The visual prompt that I showed you was a very simple picture, but it had a lot of explaining.
Oh, I see.
It wasn't an individual one item. It was a house with shapes. The house was made with shapes, with a trees, with a truck, with bushes, with clouds, with a sun. Now, if you have something like that, you can introduce the present simple because it is not a static flashcard with one picture.
Oh, so I need another, right? So it's not enough to use flashcards, isn't it?
It depends on what is the end result of the flashcard. If you want vocabulary, it is a simple picture. If you want to do it,
I see. I just want to make like students understand to enhance their words, their sentence in simple present tense, and can express the sentence that using a flashcards as the bridge about the simple present tense. So they will like imagine something like that.
because if you give them an apple, you say, use this word, use this flashcard with the present simple. Now, if you have a person eating an apple and going and having a face that they don't like it, there you can have more of a conversation and explore other ideas.
Oh, I see. Okay. Shared, yes. Okay, thank you so much, sir.
Okay, thank
You're
you,
welcome.
Mr. Mufendra, for the question. Everyone, maybe anyone can ask question again. You can raise your hands up and open your camera. Any question, everyone?
That's okay. If there are no questions, no worries.
Actually, Greg, last week some of the audience said to me that the time for Q&A session is too fast. Last week we only have one question, and maybe today Greg is have more longer time to question and answer session. And everyone, if you wanna add something to Greg or discuss something, you can. Or everything is clear, everyone.
Today I gave more food for thought, more activities.
Yeah, Miss Nurieti.
Hello?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
Hello,
please.
is my voice clear?
Yes, Miss.
Hello, check. Okay. Mr. Greg.
Yes.
Okay. I am Nurieti. I'm an English teacher for the school, second grader. And I think that this year is very hard for me because they are very active students. And there may be 90% of them are very active. So if they just write down something, okay, it doesn't work. So I do a lot of games for them, and they love it, very love it. I think maybe 50% of my learning session is like playing game. And I think that is it okay for them to play a lot of games like that? That's my
Absolutely.
question.
Absolutely. Second grade. Whew. Because,
Second grade, yeah.
yeah, look, at that age, second grade, my son is in fourth grade. Okay. And
Mm-hmm.
in second grade, he had a lot of fun. He was really enjoying it. And now it's gotten a lot more serious. He has 12 vocabulary words a day. He has more grammar. He has more studying. And he says to me, Dad, it's not the teacher, but I don't like it anymore. He goes, I'm not enjoying English, right? And I said, well, I go, games and having fun doesn't need to end at all. You can do it primary, secondary, adults, right? I mean, who doesn't like to have fun when they learn?
Everyone's like games, right?
Yeah, but
yeah, for an hour, 60 minutes. Sometimes, not sometimes, like every time I teach them, I use 30 minutes doing game.
okay,
And
that's
then
what I
after
wanted.
that, maybe, yeah.
That's what I wanted to say. That, but be careful, because when we use too much time in games and they expect it all the time, then we lose the essence of the class, right? And so you have to have a very good balance of when to use them and how long to use them. And I think you're doing that, because you said just about a half an hour of games, right?
For example, but the game, I use the games like it fits to the material. For example, when we are learning about animals, for example, it's like a blackboard, it's like whiteboard game.
Yes.
Okay, boys and girls, you have challenge. It's like boys versus girls game, and then you have to make a line. You have to write down as much as possible about animals, kind of animals, and then I'll give you 5 minutes, for example, and then they go write down all the names of the animal, and then yeah, they're having fun, but the game is related to the material.
Yes, that's excellent. And it's very good because you're using teamwork, and teamwork is, and what you're saying is exactly what the webinar was about. It's giving students the opportunity to work together, to practice the language, and to have fun and be successful as a group. So that's great. That's great.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. Thank you for sharing.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Nurede, for the
So,
question. Yeah. Next turn, maybe anyone want to ask question for Mr. Gregg? Maybe one more question from anyone, maybe Miss Anita or Miss Fitri or Mr. Ray. Do you have any question?
Hello.
Mr. Ray? Yes, please.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Hello, Greg.
Hello.
Really happy to see you again. Actually, my big problem here, because using the curriculum, you know that our curriculum actually provides for the same level of age and class of students, and it doesn't provide for the same level of knowledge of English for the students. So how to face this, and what should be done? What should we do to make the students enjoy the lessons, especially English, for this kind of problem?
When we're dealing with different levels of students, the first thing that we need to do as a teacher is to classify and group the students based on what they know. So for that to happen, at the initial stage, is to give them like a placement test to see a placement test, a placement activity, because if we call it a test right away, they freeze. We give them a placement activity, right? We don't call it placement. You rename it however you wish. And based on the results, you're able to have basically a benchmark of where each student is. Now, what happens is, the difficulty here is you have to finish a curriculum, you have to finish a book or a unit or a lesson and have all of the students be with you on the same page when you're finished. So the journey to get from point A to point B for each student is different. It's not the same. The bridge that they have to cross, let's say. So what we have to do is create different bridges for the different groups that are in your class. Now, what does this mean? It means that the pace of your teaching has to change. The students who are very good and they know the language will get bored. The students who are having difficulty will say, oh, this is nice because he's taking his time with us. And then the average students will say, what about us? So I think that, how many students do you have in your class?
In formal school, because I just visit some schools to see my teaching, and for formal school, we there are some school have about 40 to 45 students, and there are some we just have about 20 students. But in our informal school, we have about 10 to 15 in the class. It's easier.
It's much easier with 10 and 15. But let's take the worst case scenario, 40. With 40 students, what you do is you give the baseline lesson. So the content of today, the topic of today, let's say, is present simple, and for grammar. And you introduce the basic concept of present simple through examples. Now, this is how I would do it. I'm giving you the example of present simple. You give 3 sentences of present simple, and you give 3 visual prompts of present simple. You pair the students, and you ask them to match the sentences with the pictures. And then as they're doing this in pairs, right? I don't want you to mix the groups based on their levels. I want you to give the same thing to all the levels. So 2 lower performing students with 2 together, 2 higher performing students together, right? And you match them based on their performance. The higher performing students will finish first, logically, right? Once they finish first, you go to them and you say, okay, now I want you to write 3 more sentences in present simple. So they're being challenged on the same topic. You're gravitating to the other group and you're saying, okay, is everything okay? You guys matching? You guys doing all right? You guys understanding what the present simple means? Okay. Now I want you guys to write 1 sentence, if you can, one sentence. Do you see the difference? Does this mean it's more difficult for you? Yeah. Does this mean it's a little bit more difficult to micromanage your class? A little bit. But once you start doing that, it becomes a routine and you're able to do it much easier. But it's very hard, my friend. It is very hard when your class is so differentiated in their learning that how can you how can you progress with a class when other people are falling behind? Right? But look at it that way, step by step.
Okay.
Yes, you know, we can manage the class by making groups. Well, that's why teamwork is so important, right? To reduce the wasting of time. Yes, you're managing your time better. Okay.
Thanks a lot.
Okay, maybe it's enough, or we can add one more question, Mr. Gregg.
We have another question? Yeah.
Okay, last chance. Maybe one another question. Everyone, do you want to ask something? Is there any question from everyone here? Okay, last chance, everyone.
Going once, going twice. Sold.
This is our last meeting with Mr. Gregg. So if you wanna ask something or discuss something with Mr. Gregg, you can ask on today, because next week our trainer is not Mr. Gregg anymore, guys.
Oh. And you have to know that Greg is one of the best instructor you have.
Actually, how about
My
discussing?
favorite trainers.
One of the best. So I think it's all the teachers should use this time.
This is the second time, isn't it?
Yes.
Is it the second
Mr. Ray.
time? Isn't it? Actually, I want to discuss something like, Mr. Greg, excuse me, may I ask you?
Yes,
Are you a teacher in United States?
I'm 26 years in education.
So how many students in the classroom
I
actually in
had-
the United States?
I had 24 to 30, 24 to 30 students.
Oh, it's quite many.
But I was
So-
20 years old. I was 21, 22, 23, 24. You see, education when I was teaching was very different than education today. Okay, education today, students are different, the children are
Oh,
different.
yeah, I understand. Yeah, so difference with millennial, we call them. So difference like when I was young, it's so different with today. Like the students, most of them, because they always use gadgets, and that's why they always emulate. Like they are really lazy to search by manual. They
You
always
see,
use gadgets to fix the problems,
I
but by critical thinking. That's why we have to.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons why when I travel the world and I tell students, when you need to spell something and you send a message with your cell phone,
Yes.
you don't need to think of how to spell a word because it has spell check.
Yeah.
You don't need to know how to translate because it has Google Translate. You see,
Yeah.
technology is making us lazy.
That's correct.
Technology is making
I couldn't
us
agree more.
Technology is making us with short-term memory and not long-term memory.
That's what
We
I
don't
mean.
need to remember anything because it's at the
Yes.
tap of our finger. So
You know
this
what?
is,
My two students here. So they listen to you. They listen to you. I can say something to Mr. Greg. They're my students, and that's why I always teach them like that. Do not, what is that bag? What is the bag? I mean, like, always use gadgets all the time. So, I mean, like technology makes you lazy.
Technology is okay to reinforce and review the knowledge that is given in class. Unfortunately, the bridge to connect with our students' brains is technology. And what happens is students, when we learn by doing, we learn by experiencing, we learn by practicing, we learn by interacting. That's English. That's how it works. That's how it worked then, and that's how it works now. The thing is, are you willing to put the time in doing that in class and having the gadgets and the apps and the games work with you, as the other teacher said next to me over there? No, where are you? You're over there. As the other teacher said, playing games is fun. Playing games makes them happy. They learn more effectively. After you introduce the concept, though, and that's great.
Yeah, some students don't know the function of the gadgets, so they depend on the gadgets. That's why the gadget makes them really lazy about that. So they don't know how to use that properly. They don't know to use that properly, do they? That's why we as a teacher, I mean, like I always tell the function of the gadgets so they will not out of the line. That's really cool. So what do you think?
It's okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you really want to go? Yes, that's fine.
Okay, everyone, maybe I think it's enough for our session today. I would like to say thank you to Mr. Gregg for today's training, and also thank you to all audience for your participation.
Thank you.
Yes, hopefully today's training will give benefit for us. Thank you for your attention. See you later. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
See you later. Thank you. Assalamualaikum. Bye-bye.
Waalaikumsalam. Bye-bye. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you too. Goodbye. See you.
Bye. What do you say? Bye.